Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Strategy Session. I'm joined tonight by my good friends and colleagues, Joe Trippi and Stuart Stevens. As always, we're going to run through some of the big political stories of the week. We're going to get the first big one out of the way right now. It is looking very much like Graham Platner will not continue as the Democratic candidate in Maine. A lot of news back and forth on that today. But, I mean, the allegations as of now have reached the point where Joe, I mean, most of his key endorsers have sort of dropped out now, right? We're kind of done.
Yeah, Ro Khanna, Elizabeth Warren, even Bernie Sanders, all three of them, Ruben Gallegos, they're all saying get out. Look, when you have that firepower in the party, regardless of wings or anything, but when your top supporters that high up are bailing on you, and also Schumer, of course, has already announced that if he's on the ballot, the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee will not be spending any money in Maine. So, it's hard to see how he can hang on.
It's done. Once again, Susan Collins escapes accountability.
I thought it was really interesting that our friend Dan Barkoff of Veterans for Responsible Leadership, which, by the way, if everybody out there isn't familiar with it, you should go to Veterans for Responsible Leadership website. Incredible group.
Great group. Dan
drove to Maine to meet with Platner a few weeks ago and wrote, I thought, a very powerful, interesting piece that reflected his experience as a combat veteran and Platner's experience as a combat veteran, saying, look, I was 23, the Battle of Fallujah. We gave ourselves some sort of plaque. We misspelled Fallujah. So, don't hold everybody responsible for crazy shit. We had hats that said something like predators, right? We didn't know what it meant. And then after this came out yesterday, he wrote a follow-up piece that said basically, fuck you, get out.
Yeah. That's what I think is which writ large across the spectrum. That's, from Barkoff all the way over to Bernie now.
Yeah. Well, I wrote a piece a couple of weeks ago saying he was hard to kill because that first accusation, the woman that made the first accusation, not of any kind of violence, just that he was a bad boyfriend, was also the head of Women for Kavanaugh, which the irony was abundant. But this has crossed a different line, I think, and it goes back to that rule, Stuart, that we all learn in Republican world. The hardest oppo research to do is on yourself. Yeah. So
that's why I never ran. But
but he has till Monday to get out. We'll see what he does. But there is a drop dead day. Part one, and it'll be Monday the 13th, I think.
Yeah. So in happier or crazier or stranger news, Donald Trump has taken his own toilet to the NATO summit. We learned that today. But in the background of this NATO summit, we have a couple of things going on. We have Ukraine making enormous strides on the battlefield right now. They've got Russia on the back foot in the Baltic. They're hitting in Siberia. They're hitting all over the Black Sea. They're knocking out the Russian ghost tanker fleet. And yet Donald Trump's big accomplishment at the NATO summit was to remind people he wants to seize Greenland. Stu, this is like one of those moments where the unseriousness of this man meets the consequential nature of this moment.
Yeah, most presidents only lose one war. He's going to end up losing two, the Iran war, and he's going to lose Ukraine for America. Ukraine's going to win, but America is losing the war because he's now basically allied America on the losing side, which is the Putin side.
Yep.
And,
he's against communists.
Yeah, but he's against communism.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
he's going to save us from communism.
Yeah. As a Mississippian, our state gets 40% of its fucking budget from the federal government. I'm for communism. Yeah. Otherwise, our taxes would be like insane. But I think the technological edge that Ukraine has gained is only going to accelerate.
Sure.
And it's a classic sort of tech line that greater innovation leads to greater innovation leads to greater innovation. Yep. And they're doing extraordinary things with AI. And there's so many small, like 4, 5, 6 person innovative drone labs across Ukraine. in part because it makes it harder to just hit one place and kill it, and in part because there's a lot of really smart, well-trained engineers over there, and it's pretty motivating when somebody says, "I want to kill you."
Yeah, and they've run out of Patriot PAC-3 anti-missile systems. They're out. We have decided we're not going to give them anymore because Donald Trump is on the wrong side. And so Europe right now is flooding in, as of this afternoon, a number of European countries are flooding in systems to try to help defend Kyiv, which is Moscow's main target in this war, and they only strike civilian targets. And it is a remarkable moment, as Stuart, as you said, on the technological front. Yesterday, there was some reporting that Ukraine had an area of a Russian advance about 10 kilometers long, folks, about 7 miles. They had managed, using only drone systems on the ground and in the air, to destroy an entire Russian line of advance with no Ukrainians within 20 miles of the entire area. AI-driven drones and AI ground drones with mounted machine guns on them. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and they're using land-based drones to deliver supplies and evacuate wounded. The Russians now have more dead than wounded.
Yes.
Like, not since the Civil War.
Correct.
Did anybody see anything like that?
Correct. 1.4 million.
Yeah. And
insane.
It's been
the time from entry and death is like
days.
Literally.
Yeah, it's a classic. Russia is at war with a country, with a society, and across the levels of that society, they've taken that up from, grandmothers at home making trench candles to, there's a woman I met last time I was in Ukraine who was queen of Kyiv's nightlife. She ran the biggest club the day before the invasion. The next day, she enrolled as a medic. And now is running a pretty large-scale charity that collects the necessary ingredients for state-of-the-art personal medical kits for all these.
IFACs, yeah. IFACs.
And she used to run a club. She has bright red hair, and it's like you meet her on the street, and you think she still runs a club. And that's just sort of the level of engagement that has been taken. It's hard to beat that.
But you're going to see Trump. He's squirming at this NATO meeting again, wanting it to be about him. He was angry that Zelensky was speaking today about what Ukraine's doing. He was clearly pissy about it. He's declaring he's going to take Greenland. He's doing all the sort of pro-Russia garbage that he always does. And when NATO in the post-Trump era, NATO is going to have Ukraine as one of its most powerful members, not the United States. Yeah, we might still be around, but we're not going to be remembered as a core of the group. So, but that story I can't get over is that he took his own toilet with him, which I find very
I hadn't read that. What this really happened?
What? Explain that one. Sorry.
It was reported today he took a special toilet with him, so he didn't have to use the toilets at the conference. I don't know the whole rationale behind it, but it was some Putin levels of paranoia. I mean,
I love that.
Well, the toilets at the conference, they do, because the European toilets are a little different. You have 2 buttons instead of one. may have been
maybe a little much for him.
Yeah. Tough to figure out.
People that anything is a little much for right now, not to be cruel, but we're now in a DC drama over Mitch McConnell, who I think it's 14 or 15 days now. He has been missing. EMTs were called to his home. He was unconscious. Headline says 4 weeks. Okay. He is in a hospital in DC. We're now reaching the point of, I just spoke to Stalin, where Scott Jennings is like, oh, I just talked to him for 20 minutes on the phone. And John Thune, I just talked to him for 20 minutes on the phone, and Mitch is fine. And yet clearly Mitch is not fine. A lot of MAGA folks are really angry. They want Mitch out now. They can't understand why Elaine Chao went to China for 3 days after he had this event or incident. How long do you guys think Mitch has?
Well, when is the seat up? It's up
this year.
This year, right?
Yep, he's done.
Oh, hey, look, I've been in places in like Nigeria where the vice president or the president was dead and in the presidential mansion for 6 months before anybody figured that out. So I'm not, but my
now, you don't want to go down to the fridge in the middle of the night in that one.
Yeah, they'll keep the lid on this as long as they possibly can.
Yeah,
maybe right through election day. I mean, look at Kane in New Jersey.
Yeah, 100 days.
Yeah, 100 days before we ever found out what was really, what was really going on. I'm sure this one could be just as long, maybe longer post the election.
The thing about Kane that surprised me, it's like, this isn't 1972 with Eagleton. This is like now. You're allowed to say you've got depression, dude.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird how their paranoia is so lavish that somebody's going to judge them on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Rick. Did you ever work with his dad?
I did.
I always liked his dad. He was
his dad. His dad was a lovely man.
One of the first things I ever did, I was hired to make a film for the 88 convention where he was the keynote speaker.
That's right.
And it was called something like A Celebration of American Success, which basically amounted to demographically correct people who had gotten rich during Reagan. And one of the featured person was a Vietnamese American woman who had started a catering firm in Chicago and had been bought. It was a huge success. She was like a credible story. Went to law school. We made this thing. And then someone discovered that for a while when she was in law school, she put herself through school as a Playboy bunny, which I can remember sitting there in this room and Ailes and Kane were arguing. So what? That's great.
Right.
People will love that. And then they decided to kill the film. But
I know a governor whose mistress was the next Playboy bunny, but that's okay.
His father was such a dominant figure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Huge New Jersey. I mean,
and
like giant.
As your life's path to go down the same path, but destined to be a much, much more minor character. That just seems like a very dangerous.
Tom Kane used to have Republicans and Democrats beating his door down for endorsements.
Yeah.
I mean, just a line out the door because he was so beloved in the state for so long and such a kind of like respected voice. But I hope that I wish the guy well. Go get help, man. If you got a problem, go get help. It's not. There's no shame in that game, but.
No, none.
I do think McConnell is going to. This is going to become a very dramatic moment. The state legislature in Kentucky, at McConnell's direction a couple of years ago, essentially took the naming of a replacement out of the hands of the governor. There's some legal back and forth on whether Andy Beshear may be able to name this replacement, but I think they're going to try to push it to 90 days so that we're inside the window and they make it into a special.
That's what I think. They'll push it as long as they can, if they can.
Somebody texted me earlier. I'm just talking to my friend Al D'Amato, and he's hearing that Mitch is looking for room down here. Oh my God. So, but yeah, I think it's going to, I don't know if it changes. I don't know if it changes much about what the Senate makeup would be, but obviously, you've got people in MAGA really pushing to get an answer now. You've got Scott Jennings, who we all know is desperate to become the replacement for Mitch McConnell. He's definitely working at all those angles and trying to become like the Kentucky Trump champion, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, say what you will about Mitch McConnell. He was a giant in the Senate. And if the Democrats had a Mitch McConnell with a D after his name, they would have been a lot better off in a couple of different places.
Agreed.
just because he's a damn operator.
Yeah.
Just an unbelievably powerful operator. But that's neither here nor there. But we had a long, weird weekend with Trump. It was a terrible display of Trump sleeping during the fireworks. That speech was a combination of someone said to Claude or ChatGPT, write me an inspirational Reagan-esque speech, but fill it up and lard it down with all sorts of weird Trump manias and obsessions.
That's probably how it got written.
Which was the speech itself. Like, you could see the speechwriter struggling to break through in the text. And obviously you could tell where the Sharpie had come in.
Yeah. And it was literally midnight in America too, by the time.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the whole thing, and there was not much wind in DC, so the fireworks display, the biggest ever, was that. You saw flashes through the clouds. Not what he had planned.
Yeah, if you could breathe, yeah.
If you could breathe. And doctors were like, if you have breathing problems, please don't. Please avoid it. But so I don't know. What else, guys? What else are you thinking? What else are you following in the news, Stuart?
Well, look, I think that what really interests me is what is going to be the connection between Trump's favorables and how it's going to affect Republicans on the ballot. Because, like, I know we were saying, talking about Alabama, Joe, and saying that Trump's favorable is down to 52.
No,
in
he's
Alabama.
just 8 now. He's down under 50 now. He's
under 50. And candidates traditionally, well, not traditionally, but in the past have underperformed Trump.
Right. So in Alabama, for instance, Tuberville generally runs about 7 points lower than Trump's. Whatever. If Trump's at 50, he's at 43. So the Trump dropping this low. Even Alabama, yes. I mean, none of us blow smoke about, it's going to be easy, but yeah, Doug Jones has a shot because of, if the pattern that all three of us have seen over the years of somebody with this low approval rating and what that impact has on the House and Senate candidates in those races, generally, it's generally a pretty big deal. And so I still expect that. I don't see that changing yet. We'll see. I mean, we're still a long way off, but
we've got right now with 57% of Democrats saying they're highly likely to vote.
Yeah.
The voter intention on the Democratic side is through the roof. It is like I've never seen it before.
And
which is why all these red seats are, if you're in a Republican in an R+15 seat, now you're like, maybe I should do some work. Maybe I should go do some campaigning.
Yeah, I mean, that's what in Alabama, we've talked about this. The turnout in this Democratic primary where Doug and all the candidates for on the Democratic side, none of them had any opposition. None of them spent any money. The turnout was up 116%. On the Republican side, where they spent $30 million in various races fighting for the Senate, and Trump's on one side and all that kind of stuff that we've seen in other states, their turnout went down 25%. So you've got this. We're actually not just seeing it in polls. We're actually seeing it, as people, with their feet go to the polls. They've got a drop off on 2022. Democrats are having a surge, and that's how we're getting these, overperformance of 13%, 17%. I don't see any of that changing, at least any of the polling or anything I've seen. I know you've looked at it, Rick, on the by the numbers, and I just don't see anything. It's just getting worse for him, actually. We'll see.
There's a poll out today, and I haven't gone through the tabs on it yet, but Trump's approval on the economy was at 19% with likely voters.
Yeah,
guys,
we've never.
Well,
60 or 70% of Republicans were still saying it's great. So that just tells you. I mean, that tells you like independents now have to be into the.
Independents are basically performing exactly like Democrats to make that math work.
Yeah, it's the only way it can work.
Crazy. What were you saying, Stuart? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, we've just never seen anything like that. And I don't know how you get out of that. I mean, what have they tried? They tried a war. That didn't work.
Right.
Usually that's a pretty
Cuba,
good
they could invade.
just go blow some shit up. And maybe he will invade Greenland.
Yeah, look, I mean, the Cuba thing that Joe mentioned, that Cuba's in its 4th or 5th week of having either no or limited power. Which is, if you're going to soften up Cuba for an invasion, that's a way to do it. But Trump's war record right now is not helping. We're back to square one in Iran. Trump has today said the MOU is no longer valid this afternoon.
And Iran is proven to be a lot stronger.
Yeah, Iran's doing Iran. They're not playing by his rules, and there's oil prices jumping again. But and the economy is not doing great. We've got people leaving the workforce. We had 67,000 total jobs last quarter. That is not good. And so we're, all these things keep adding up into this big picture for the fall that, we all know is incredibly important. And I think you're sensing that now with Trump and the Save America Act, like demanding it. He's trying to set the predicate and say, the election's going to be stolen. It's all a lie. The immigrants are voting. They're eating the dogs, eating the cats. I mean, I think that's what's driving all this Save Act stuff is they're trying to pregame a claim of a stolen election. They're going to try to get states not to certify their ballots.
I think you're absolutely right. And, all of it being driven by the reality that we're becoming a majority country.
Yep.
And, whenever I get depressed, I sort of cheer myself up by thinking Stephen Miller's kids are going to grow up in a majority country as long as he's an American. And there's nothing the little fucker can do about it. So,
well, yeah. And the birthright citizenship thing, which we weren't on last week to talk about that, or I wasn't on at least, that is a huge blow to the Trump movement. They really wanted to say that it was blood and soil and not the providential gift of America to make you a citizen. And I thought that was in a very mixed bag week for the court. They expanded presidential power on the one hand, but on that, they did the right thing.
Yep.
And look, I don't think we can leave without talking a little Ken Paxton here.
Oh God, no. We gotta.
Please.
The Lincoln Project did play a certain role in that.
Folks, as we like to say, as I say in Star Wars, we have friends everywhere.
Yes. Do we have that picture?
We got a new clip of Ken.
First of all,
it's July in an election year. You're supposed to be campaigning.
How can you vote for somebody who's so dumb they don't know how to have an affair? I mean, that's just like a basic level of competency that you ought to be able to muster. Like, don't get on the same plane going on a vacation. Take different planes.
To Iceland.
Right. And if you're in London, maybe not walk around Oxford Circus, one of the most populated areas in the entire city. Call me crazy, but I'm starting to think Ken Paxton's not working too hard for this campaign, because he is absolutely, it's July of an election year and you're in the state of Texas and you're tied with a Democratic candidate who's running laps around you. I mean, I'm not sure if maybe I'm overanalyzing Ken Paxton here, but has this guy already checked out on this race? Is he thinking like, I'm done?
No, I think he's got so much shit and survived that he thinks he's bulletproof.
Yeah, he thinks he's invincible.
Maybe.
He can get away with it. He can take her wherever he wants, and nothing's going to happen. Bad's going to happen to him. That the Republicans will cover for him. Yeah. And Trump,
so far they are.
Yeah.
So far they are. I noticed a lot of Republicans out this weekend. Like, we would never, ever, ever have a sexual harasser like Graham Platner on our ticket. I'm like, y'all got a rapist in the White House. Y'all got Jeffrey Epstein's best friend in the White House. Don't even play with me on that.
He just had a huge event where a guy who beat his wife in public put on the event.
Yes, correct. And you got Ken Paxton who who literally had a friend of his who was a pedophile who raped boys get a 20-day sentence with no consequences, didn't lose his law license, didn't pay a fine, didn't do anything except a diversion program that Ken Paxton created for this guy. It astounds me at the hypocrisy of these people. Astounds me. Well, folks, it has been a busy week, and it's only Tuesday. We're coming out of the holiday weekend, so we're going to be back with you again next Tuesday. Be sure, while you are looking at our various channels, check out the Lincoln Project podcast. Check out Joe Trippi on the Two Joes and In the Field. What's it called?
On the ground, in
the field. Sorry, I'm punchy as shit. Check out the breakdown on Thursday nights. Check out Behind the Numbers with Andrew Wilson and myself on Fridays, and Elephant in the Room also on Fridays. And folks, we will see you again next week. Same time, same channel. We will have more news and subscribe to Lincoln Square. We will have more news and more insights for you next week. And maybe I won't be as worn down from the holiday. Folks, see you next time.
All right, guys.